Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. Come to me.
What? You rang? I'm your nothing to fear, Jeannie, where I reassure you that the reason Trump is ratcheting up his ridiculousness is because he has seen his own internal polls, besides the ones that he's paid for, that tell him he is going to lose next time. And let me remind you, can I just start off with a piece of really good news?
Yes.
Trump on Truth Social posted a graphic yesterday where he has 51% in Iowa and nobody else is close. Ron DeSantis is at 19.
Yeah.
Nikki Haley is at 16. Vivek Ramaswamy is at 5, and Chris Christie's 4. And Trump thinks this is a dunk. He's like, boom. Let me remind you that not only was Ron DeSantis at 12% a month and a half ago in the very same poll, and Nikki Haley wasn't in double digits at all a month ago, but Donald Trump won with 98% of the Republican vote in 2020. That means that his support in his own party in 3 years has been cut in half.
Right. You tweeted that, and also GOP voter registration is down.
Yes.
And by the way, there was just new polling showing Biden ahead by 4 points in all of the swing states and all of
everywhere. Everywhere.
But you don't see that
happens when you actually check a broad base of actual voters. But when you go, we asked 50 Republicans and 50 Democrats, and this is the number we came up with, and you're like, I got news for you. In that state, there are 1,000 Republicans and 13,000 Democrats in each county as far as a difference. So it looks like a horse race if you put those kind of things, if you do 50-50. But, I mean, I guess that's part of media coverage and trying to make it a sports.
I think it was Palmer Report that tweeted, this is where I go back and forth between panic, gastrointestinal distress, and calm. But he was like, the closer he gets to prison, senility, whatever, the more his handlers put out these scary stories about what a second Trump administration would look like.
Right. Yeah.
To make us fear and panic, because that's what authoritarians do. They make it seem like they're inevitable and we have to cower.
Right. Well, that would make, in this case, Stephen Miller and maybe Bannon and a couple of the other people behind Trump, the actual authoritarians that basically have their hand up his backside like he's Kermit the Frog. The reality is that the more they put this stuff out, the more they are increasingly aware of his wind down. Even at that, the best response I've seen him give at his speech was that Young Republicans thing where people were really excited to see him. And he even said that Democrats, and I think this was a sideline Berman reference because he got confused, crawl around under carpets and rugs.
Huh?
I don't even know where that came from. Crawl around under carpets and rugs. And he just said, and he did one of those, no one knew. No one knows what you're talking about.
Oh, I also saw him signing a teenage girl's.
I saw that.
Oh, yeah.
That was gross.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Her family's so happy behind
Noted
her.
rapist and Jeffrey Epstein friend was signing a teenage girl's.
Right,
boobs.
yeah.
Boobs.
Dude who, by the way, great judge of character, hashtag the best people, managed to hang out with Jeffrey Epstein, party with the dude for 2 decades, but we're supposed to totally believe that while everybody else who met Jeffrey Epstein at a fundraiser got a picture with him or he got a picture with them, these people are culpable in these crimes. And when Trump threw private parties with this dude at his own house, somehow he's like, I had no idea. I had no idea this guy was the way he was. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
The other thing about polling, how, as we keep saying, it does change when he's convicted. And I know you and I are of the belief he is going to be convicted. So, it reminds me of our first Sexy Liberal tour. Remember that? Where I was like having a toddler with you because you're like a, road warrior. And you were just like, calm down, sit down, put some headphones on, stop talking. Yeah. It's all going to be fine.
I got you one of those juice pouches that has slushy, fruit in it and carrots. You like carrots. I remember that. Yeah, absolutely.
The road is fun, but it's scary. Is everything going to pay? Okay, Hal?
Right. And sleep. I have to say the half a bottle of Benadryl really worked out. I don't really, it's not my first choice.
Try that again before the election.
It was an emergency.
But speaking of being convicted, I mean, like this Jack Smith thing, I know experts are saying it's a bold move. It's a great move. It's, he's got the goods. He is shooting for the moon. But of course, with this, makeup of the Supreme Court, of course, I'm nervous. Right?
Right.
I mean, what do you make of all that?
Oh yeah, I'm not worried because these people want their job and they know that Trump has a grudge against two of them for not voting to put him back in office. So they have, on a personal, extrajudicial level, they have they have a dog in the fight of not letting him get back in office randomly. Anyways, they also have a bigger legacy than his now because Supreme Court justices, it's the same thing that happens with senators. Senators,
by the way, they wouldn't matter in a dictatorship, so they might want to think about that.
Right, that's exactly right. That he knows that he will put in more people just like them if he could, and their ability to be the hero of pro-life movements or what have you dissipates instantly the minute he gets back in office. If he doesn't decide to just throw them out for not reinstating him as president. So again, I think they're worried about their legacy now, not his.
Yeah, and speaking of voting, I mean, we keep calling it road rage, but these real life, stories like in Texas and Ohio are going to drive people to the polls even bigger than we've already seen. Yeah,
well, I mean, ladies, you outnumber everybody. You're at 51.7% of the voting electorate, and the men who love and support you are more than half of the other group. And I'm saying that that's going to affect 2024's election more than any other factor. And that's why you're going to see people on the fringes try to push this idea that that Roe v. Wade and women's rights and even gay rights and the other stuff are social distractions that the Democrats try to throw up around blah, blah, blah. You're going to hear a bunch of that because they're going to try and mute the vote going into it. But it's not going to work. It's overwhelming. And that's look at the polls that happened right before the last election, and everybody was so confused. They were just, how did this happen? Well, your polls are flawed, and this is not a one-off thing. Women are not going to go, all right, I voted once about it, but I guess, whatever.
I keep saying, women are not just going to get over losing bodily autonomy.
Women don't just get over things.
I can tell you that right now.
Wow. Yeah, from experience, let me tell you that right now. And nor should they.
We don't get over it.
That is why E. Jean Carroll is a hero, and Shea Moss and Ruby Freeman, bless their hearts, are on the stand right now in their fight against Rudy Giuliani. And that idiot you were saying, he just defamed them on the courthouse steps. The judge just
the judge just said of these guys.
Yeah. And she's on the stand right now. I think Ruby is on the stand right now.
Yeah.
So just horrible. Just don't treat people bad just for the random of it. In sycophantic support for Donald Trump, and that's the problem. They can't not, because what are they going to do? Run on his policies? Run on his pithy, quirky speech? I mean, honestly, there is no there with Donald Trump, and they become more aware of it every single day.
Yeah. And I feel like every day we're going to have a fight against disinformation. We were saying the good news, Supreme Court, is they rejected anti-vax lunatic Bobby Kennedy's lawsuit. Right. Obviously, places do have a right to say you're putting out anti-science crap.
Right.
And we have a right, But you were tweeting about them. What's his name? Elon letting Alex Jones back on Twitter, and you said this empty scrotum has been broadcasting for over 2 decades. If there's a deep state Illuminati lizard alien cabal running the world, he has to be an employee, or they'd have erased him by now. What a dork.
Well, that's always been my point with Alex. And again, I was on his show over a decade ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
God bless
my buddy Richard Hunter got us on the show, and we managed the impossible. I got to make him admit that Obama's not evil, and Richard actually got him to admit that there are good things in Obamacare. It was hilarious. But during the breaks,
you're a ninja.
all he would talk about is how he went to the Hillary Clinton documentary that eventually became the case that was Citizens United.
Yeah.
And all he would talk about, not the movie, not the content, not what an evil monster she was, and blah, blah, blah. He saved that for the air. What he talked about during the breaks was how many pieces of this chocolate cake he had there. And they had so much of it. He's like, oh, my God, I had like 5 pieces of this chocolate cake. It was, I'm like, really? I couldn't tell. And he was like, we drank this red wine. They had like bottles and bottles of it. And I'm like, okay, idiot. Let me get this straight. You think Hillary Clinton has a list of dead people in her wake with her husband that they have just knocked off anybody who messes with them, and you're going to eat food that's openly served at an anti-them documentary? What are you talking about? How in the world am I supposed to take you seriously if you don't show up to that thing in a hazmat suit or zoom it in to some degree? Because don't you realize it's the Clintons? Your lives are in danger. Right. Don't eat anything. Put that cake down. So obviously he's a puffed up fraud. And again, I would like to remind people he's not fat. He is bloated. It is a mixture of some sort of the supplements he takes and an allergy
Chris
he doesn't
know he has.
I've always loved
the before and after pictures. He looks exactly the same.
And his supplement ads.
Yeah, he looks like the Big Five, or that what a Big Hero 5 or whatever balloon.
Big Hero 6, Baymax. Baymax.
Thank you, Big Hero 6. Thank you. That was outside my kid's window of movies. You know what I mean? It landed outside.
Yeah,
and he looks like a balloon animal. Honestly.
You also point out there's no deep state. It's just an updated version of bureaucrat combined with a moronic obsession with the Illuminati. The same people who blather about the deep state defund the DMV and then whine about all the bad drivers on the road.
Yeah.
Right. The deep state. Get out of here. And by the way, all the people who are like, we got to stop the deep state, are all clamoring for Trump to appoint people in positions so that they can carry out his every whim, whether it's legal or not, which is exactly what they think the deep state is doing.
Well, it used to mean big government, but they can't claim to be the party of small government anymore after what's happening in Texas and everywhere else.
That's right.
You know, these are death panels.
You're right. They sound too boring. It's just bureaucrat sounds like a 1970s slur against, over governance or something. You know what I mean? Like a studious, bespeckled, building inspector who won't let you, who insists that you thin out the sidewalk an extra eighth of an inch or something. That used to be what they threw at. That's now the deep state, because it's got this kind of Illuminati behind the scenes, elders of Zion nonsense attached to it.
Yeah, right.